With a tampon, you can swim all day, every day, and no one will know that you're on your period. Don't worry about leaking. It won't leak when you're on the tampon. What's up, beautiful people? Welcome to another exciting episode of Health Savvy with Dr. O. You already know. Today we're going to be discussing an important topic, something that I think everyone should know about, whether you're male or you're female, because yes, this topic is important to everyone. You need to know what's going on in your female counterparts, like you need to know what's going on in your wife's life, your sister's life, your anybody, right? So this topic is for everyone, whether you're male or female. And I'm talking about how to use a tampon. Yeah, guys need to know how to use it too, so you can teach your girlfriends that don't know how to use it, or your wives. So basically, tampons usually come in this type of packs, and they are they usually contain at least 18, 20, 10, depending on the size of the pack, right? And what's a tampon? For those of you that don't know, a tampon is basically a sanitary product. Is an alternative to using a sanitary pad. So everyone, or almost everyone, I assume, knows what a sanitary pad is, or a sanitary towel is, right? That's what women wear when they're on their period to collect the menstrual blood so they don't get stained and all that. There are alternatives to using sanitary pad, because the only menstrual product people know, or most people know, is sanitary pad everywhere you go. And probably because that's one of the easiest to use and the cheapest and most affordable, right? But for people that want other options, I have a video where I talked about other alternatives to using a sanitary pad. But today, we're only going to be talking about one of them, and that is the tampon, which I just showed you here. Like I said, the tampons come in packs, right? They come in packs like sanitary pads where you have like 10, 15, 18. These ones also come in packs of multiple tampons, and because you need to change them regularly, and you probably need to use more than one a day. So today we're going to be talking about how to use a tampon. If you've never used a tampon before, I'm going to tell you how to use one. I might not be able to do a full demonstration, but I will tell you how to use it. When you bring your tampon out of the pack, it usually comes individually wrapped. So this is great because you can put this in your purse, you can put it in your bag, you can put it in your car, It's always good to carry an extra sanitary product around. Number one, because you don't know when your period will start. Number two, because even if you're already on your period, you might need to change and all that. So you should just always have one. If you don't need it, a friend will probably need it who already know it. So just always have one around with you. Let's open it up so I'll show you what it looks like. By the way, there are two types of tampons. We have the ones that come with an applicator, and we have the ones that come without an applicator. This is the one that comes with an applicator. An applicator is just basically like something that guides you to inserting it, right? So this plastic thing, this whole thing we're seeing, is the applicator of the tampon. This one here is a tampon without an applicator. So this is the difference. Tampon with applicator, tampon without an applicator. They do the same thing, right? But one is more like for beginners that don't really know how to insert it themselves, and this one is for like pros that can already insert it. And all tampons look like there is this string attached to it. So this is the main part that is going to absorb all the blood, right? All the menstrual blood. And this part is just for you to be able to remove it. After you've inserted the tampon into your private part, this string is going to stay dangling down so that you can easily pull it out, right? And throw it away. So most tampons are flushable. You can actually flush them down the toilet. Unlike sanitary pads, you can actually flush these ones down the toilet. So we're going to be talking about how to use them. First things first, before you use a tampon, you must make sure you wash your hands with soap and water, right? This is because you're going to be inserting your hands into your private part, and you don't want to introduce bacteria into that area, right? So make sure you wash your hands with soap and water. Now the next thing you want to do is make sure you find a comfortable or suitable spot. So you could be in the toilet or something, right? Or you could be in your room, wherever you're changing it, but just make sure the area is clean so that you can be comfortable. The way a tampon works is that you need to insert it into your private part. So unlike a sanitary pad where you just stick onto your underwear, this one is pretty much invisible. No one gets to see it at all because it stays inside your private part. So some people might find it awkward having to put their fingers inside their private parts just to put this. That's why some people choose not to use tampons, but really to each his own. If you choose to use tampons, good for you. I'm going to talk about the pros and cons of using a tampon shortly. The position you're going to take is either you're crouching, so that's when you bend down with your legs wide open so that you can easily insert it into your private part, or you can stand and put one leg up, right, on a toilet seat or whatever that you need to support. So you're standing, one leg is up so that you can easily insert it into your private parts. Whichever position works for you, just make sure you stick to it. When you are using the one without an applicator, you're basically just going to hold a tampon like this and then use this index finger to push the tampon further up into your private parts until you can go as high up as you can take it, so it soaks up the blood. You just push it as far back as you can, but make sure as you are pushing it, if you feel, you can still feel the string. As long as you can still feel the string, you are safe, because this is the string that you're going to use to pull it out when you are done. But for this one is pretty much for beginners that feel kind of weird about having to put their hand in their private partner. For this one, all you just have to do is use the applicator as a guide. So you insert this whole plastic into your private part using the positions I already mentioned. You just insert it. So when you already have this part into your private part, that's this part all the way here, then this is the applicator, right? So you basically push it all the way till the end. When you do that, the tampon goes up. So basically when the tampon is already inside, when you push it out, it goes up. Then you can pull out this applicator, right? When you pull out the applicator, the tampon stays in, right? It stays in, and you can just put your hand to make sure that you can feel this string, because this is the string that you're going to use to bring it out. The applicator is not flushable, obviously. You throw this one into the bin as if you choose to buy one with an applicator. But when you're done using the tampon, again, when you want to remove it, you need to wash your hands and then just put your hands into your private part and pull on the string. When you pull on the string, you gently pull it out of your private part, and you see that the tampon is soaked. You can flush it into the toilet or decide to just toss it into the bin. It's really up to you how you choose to dispose of it. Now let's talk about the pros and cons of using a tampon. So the good thing about this tampon is that, sometimes sanitary pad, there are some things you want to do that you can't do just because you're on your period. One of them is swimming. With a tampon, you can swim all day, every day, and no one will know that you're on your period. Don't worry about leaking. It won't leak when you're on the tampon. As long as it's properly placed, you wouldn't leak. It will absorb all the blood, so you can swim without having to worry or even remember that you're on your period. So that's one good thing about this. Another good thing about it is that it's comfortable. Sometimes pads can be pretty uncomfortable, especially if you're wearing the bulky ones. They just get in the way and they're just very, very uncomfortable and constantly reminding you that you're on your period, which can be so annoying. With tampons, you don't get that reminder. If you actually insert a tampon properly, you wouldn't even feel it's there. In fact, it's so bad that you can actually forget that it's there. So you need to maybe set a reminder to remove it or something. Now, the bad part about this tampon is, number one, unlike a pad where when you use the bathroom you can see that it's almost soaked, you need to change your pad. With a tampon, you can't see it, so you don't know when it's actually soaked, right? So if you don't change it and it gets soaked, then it starts to leak, then you could get stained. So that's the downside. If you don't change it at the right time, it will get soaked and you get stained, so because you can't see when it's soaked. So a good thing to prevent this is just make sure you change your tampons frequently, regularly. So you can just say, I'm going to change it every 3 hours or every 4 hours, depending on how heavy your flow is. With time, when you have been using it, you can determine how frequently you need to change it. And also just know that the way that there are pads for different flow strengths, right? That's heavy, light, blah 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 pads. There's also tampons like that, so you see them. The absorbency strength is always indicated on the pack, just like it is on a sanitary pad. So if you know you have heavy flow, go for the tampons that are meant for heavy flows. If you have light flow, you can go for tampons that are for lighter flow, and so on and so forth like that. Another downside of using this tampon is that it is associated with a high risk for something that we call toxic shock syndrome. Toxic shock syndrome is basically a bacterial infection, right? It's usually caused by a bacteria that we call Staphylococcus aureus, right? And it can be life-threatening. Although it's a rare infection, but it can be very life-threatening. And this is usually associated with tampon use. So it doesn't mean that anybody that uses tampon is going to get toxic shock syndrome. No. Basically, if you use a tampon and you don't change it regularly, so some people, I told you, it's so comfortable that you can forget it's there. So some people, maybe on the last day of their period, they used it and they forgot it was there. So they're carrying it for like weeks and stuff like that, and it just stuck there. That thing can have bacteria on it. It's going to serve as a source of bacteria that is going to spread around the whole body and cause that toxic shock syndrome, which can actually be very life-threatening. So you want to be very careful. Every time you insert a tampon, make sure you remember to take it out. Always remember to take it out, right? Always ask yourself, have I taken out my tampon today? Because if you leave it in, it might be life-threatening, like I already said. If you're changing your tampon before 8 hours, you should be safe. But anything longer than 8 hours, you're putting yourself at risk. Preferably less than 8 hours. You should be looking at changing it every 4 to 6 hours, depending on your flow, right? But don't leave it longer than 8 hours because you're putting yourself at risk for toxic shock syndrome. You can do so. So let me know, have you used a tampon before? What was your experience like? Are you team tampons or team sanitary pads? Because I know they are on two opposite ends. Some people think sanitary pads are so gross, like they're not doing that. And some people are like, tampon, no way, how am I putting my hand into my private pad? That's just not it, you know? So tell me, which side are you on? Tampon side, sanitary pad? Are you on the fence? Yeah, in between. You use the two depending on whatever situation it is. Let me know. And have you had any terrible experiences with using tampons? Let me also know about that in the comment section. Thank you for listening. And remember that a healthy you is a happy you. See you next week.